Good morning. It's Saturday, December 28th, and this is your Saturday Wrap. I'm Barbara Boyd. Most of the news this week has been filled with the end of the year reflections, which don't say very much. The prize for the biggest story of the year is, of course, Donald Trump's heroic journey against all odds and with the help of the grace of God to the presidency, equaled in many respects by the miraculous coalition he built in his makeover of the Republican Party, a coalition dedicated to the advancement of the forgotten men and women of the country, young people, working people across all prior political and religious affiliations, across races and all creeds, united in the idea of ending all the wars and beginning this country anew, rebuilding it, making it, as he says, great again. At the same time, he split the extant establishment, many of whom suddenly realized that they were riding a dead horse, a paradigm of globalization and imperial wars, which was on the verge of killing this nation itself. He has created a complete transformation in the country already, both in mood and in substance. My friends report on their interactions with relatives and friends over this holiday, no longer glum and intense, but somehow optimistic, even if disagreeing, somehow lighter, somehow there was laughter when before there was shouting. The prize for the biggest cover-up of the year, of course, is related to the fact that the same establishment installed a sundowning and senile man in the presidency of the United States. And we have yet to account for who was making the actual decisions over this 4 years. Disastrous decisions, all of them. Many believe credibly that it was Barack Obama. Every major establishment figure, from senators and congressmen to the media, to the military, to the intelligence community, was in on this, covered up this before the population. We also don't really know how it came to be that this man, Biden, was deposed, a coup. The journalist Matt Taibbi has pointed out that none of the stories about Joe Biden deciding to leave the race make much sense. I agree with him. But today I want to talk a bit about the dust-up which has occurred over the last 48 hours over Elon Musk, Silicon Valley, and immigration. If you haven't been following it, Laura Loomer, who portrays herself as a spokesperson for the MAGA grassroots, first attacked Indian-American entrepreneur Sriram Krishnan, who Trump has appointed as a White House counsel on AI, and then she went on a full-fledged social media tirade against Elon Musk and others. Steve Bannon sided with Loomer, so did others. Both Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy responded, Musk thoughtfully, and Vivek with libertarian drivel and provocative put-downs on American culture. The disgraced Nikki Haley weighed in, attacking Ramaswamy's dissing of American culture. Of course, the never-Trumpers in the media are all engaged now, thinking that a split between Trump and his newer Silicon Valley supporters has emerged over immigration policy. The emergent issue is the fact that Musk and Trump support importing highly skilled engineering talent into the country to assist in the modern manufacturing and industrialization drive, which is at the center of Trump's plan to make America great again. Neither Musk or Trump support the unhinged open border policy of illegal immigration foisted on us by the Biden administration. No one can argue that America right now has a sufficient number of highly skilled scientists and engineers to meet the demands of an industrial renaissance. Some of the president-elect's supporters point to documented abuses of the H-1 visa program by Silicon Valley, which are very, very real. And they advocate a pause of all immigration, both legal and illegal, in order to focus on developing and reskilling the American worker. Under the present program, Silicon Valley imports people for entry-level jobs in coding that are mind-deadening and generally abuse the system to drive down labor costs. Some of the president's supporters have even said that immigration policy has nothing to do with labor policy, an obnoxiously false statement, if ever there was one, as the Biden administration has used unchecked open borders to systematically drive down wages. Loomer, ever the attention-seeking wild woman, claims that Musk has censored her in retaliation over this particular fight. The debate here is healthy, if verging on the juvenile in certain respects, but it really is time to clear away the smoke and see what principles are involved. Right now, we are facing a gargantuan debt, along with many other nations of the world, and facing a demographic crisis because of our stalled and declining birth rate. This situation is such that under the present economic ideology, like Republican libertarian thinkers and budget hawks, we will have to implement horrific austerity to survive as a nation. Trump has a much better idea, and he campaigned on it. He is promising to deal with the debt through an economic renaissance in this country, building our way out of the debt by creating new sources of revenue through tariffs, trade, and advances in the productivity of our economy. Alexander Hamilton did the same thing when we were bankrupt at the point of our revolution. Abraham Lincoln mobilized precisely this package for winning the Civil War. Franklin Roosevelt dug us out of the 1930s Depression and mobilized for the war using exactly the same types of devices. Chief as drivers in this urgent mobilization of our productive energy, our ability to make things, products, infrastructure, and energy versus the speculative economy of paper pushing and services we are now leaving, is the development of new sources of energy, advanced fossil fuels, nuclear energy, and fusion, along with the use of artificial intelligence in modern manufacturing and industrial processes to rebuild our infrastructure and our cities. Space exploration also is the road to invention of new production methods and resources. As an example, Elon Musk is not just building rockets, he is designing and building the factories and the machines to mass produce them, and the cities which his workers will inhabit as they work and create. We are not undertaking this mission in a vacuum, in isolation. The nation which first develops fusion energy, an unbounded energy source, and inhabits the moon and Mars will have a huge and immediate technological advantage over any other nation in the world. And thus, all advanced nations are pursuing these policies. China, India, lots of other nations, including even the UK. How they might use that advantage is open to question, and the risk to those who lose the race is very real. Through years of rotten education in this country and a culture which promotes DEI rather than excellence, we are not training sufficient numbers of native scientists and engineers to meet the demands of the economy Trump has promised to create if we are to get out of the debt trap our predecessors set for us. We need to undertake a massive and dedicated reskilling and upskilling effort in our present workforce with a major national focus on science and engineering, similar to that the nation undertook when Sputnik was announced and we had the space race. That is urgent and must be done now, but we need a stopgap in the meantime. In his 4 laws required for the economic recovery of the United States, Lyndon LaRouche posited that we needed to figure out how to harness the financial system to produce credit directed solely to what he called high productivity trends and improvements of employment of the population, increasing physical economic productivity and the standards of living of persons and household, making it possible once again for one wage earner to support a family in a house suitable for family living. That idea is very much at the center of Trump's prospectus for the next 4 years. Dedicated libertarians like Vivek, will not be able to figure this out because libertarianism blocks their creative functioning. Elon, on the other hand, calls himself fashionably a libertarian, but describes his thinking process as that of a physicist. He says that the analytical framework of physics, exploring the laws of the universe and how things work or do not work according to those laws, allows you to have a framework for solving every problem. While we undertake a radical reform of our educational system to produce and pay native scientists and engineers, we will have to go out into the world and find additional talent to meet our needs. We'll also have to reform the H-1 visa and other such programs to cure the abuse of the programs, which ends up creating indentured servants rather than the highly skilled and motivated people Musk says he is seeking. This perspective needs to be made clear now to the population. This dust-up illustrates the difference between campaigning and governing. Donald Trump must now govern the entire country in all of its divisions and all of its different opinions. He must make good on his promises to rebuild the economy in a worldwide economic situation which is dire and which mankind has not really faced before. This requires that his movement take the bit in its teeth of making America great again, rather than trading on all the things that were ugly and evil in the enemy arena we just defeated. This will not be a smooth ride. It will be very bumpy. We're going into turbulence like going into the sound barrier, and will only come out once we go through the turbulence and come out peacefully on the other side. It will be very bumpy as we make our way out of this darkness. But it will be a journey which is exactly what life is all about. The mission for this country, which has been so lacking in the last decades. There won't be a class tonight. I'll be back on Monday with a perspective on where things stand in the nomination fights. If you appreciate these updates, please feel free to hit the donation button on www.prometheanpact.com or www.prometheanaction.com. Thanks very much for listening, and I hope this provided a little bit of clarity for the muck which occurred over the last 48 hours. I'll see you again on Monday.
Thanks for watching. Please take a moment and subscribe to our free newsletter at prometheanaction.com.